So today we're going to be talking about Chessington Worlds of Adventure, or World of Adventures.
It's
world. I'm not even sure which one it is.
It's one world
of adventures,
multiple adventures,
of many adventures. Yeah, great. That is confirmed. That is in the logo. So this is one of the two Merlin theme parks located in the London Metro. They're really not far from each other. Thorpe Park and Chessington are really close. And so Thorpe Park is obviously like the thrill park, and it really focused on that being the thrill park. And then Chessington World of Adventure is like really the family park. There's nothing there that's thrilling. I mean, even if there's some sort of thrill to it, it's like a family-friendly thrill, like their wing coaster. It's like a family wing coaster. So it's kind of fascinating because these two parks operate very differently, aside being the same operator. And this is really smart, I think, because they don't cannibalize each other. They offer incredibly different products. Again, thrills. And the other one is just like family zoo kind of vibe with some pretty decent rides, actually. Some dark rides, roller coasters, water rides, all that. So today we're going to be talking about Chessington. We've already talked about Thorpe Park in the past. Today is Chessington World of Adventure. And we had a decent time.
We had a great time. I love Chessington. I'm a little apprehensive about the direction that they're going in right now because they're doing a lot of intellectual property lands. The Jumanji area opened last year. They have a Paw Patrol area that's taking over most of the Mexicali area that opens this coming year. And then there's an area of the park that's currently closed and is rumored to be getting rethemed to Minecraft.
Yeah, that's the Asia area, right?
So there's a lot of like intellectual properties. It's like very symptomatic of like current Merlin. But aside from that, the theme being mostly family rides is a great theme. It's a really cute park. It has like a kind of a Legoland sort of marketing appeal to it of being like lots of family friendly rides. There's a handful of thrill rides here. They before being acquired by Merlin, both Thorpe Park and Chessington had much more similar lineups that were primarily family rides with some thrill rides thrown in there. Samurai at Thorpe was famously relocated from Chessington once Merlin was in charge of both parks because they felt like in order to diversify the parks and keep them both profitable despite being in the same market, one would need to be the thrill park and one would need to be the family park. So they took the most thrilling ride from Chessington and sent it to Thorpe to kind of beef up Thorpe's thrill complement. But it kind of came full circle because now we have Mandrill Mayhem, which is a proper launch looping roller coaster for Chessington. It's like the thrill ride at Chessington now.
And a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of
Coaster
Kings Radio. And we used to do this in sync, not anymore, I guess.
Hey,
and,
you were slow.
Talking about
I was on
Chessington,
cue.
World of Adventure. I was first. Wait, is this the lag in hearing each other?
It might be the
Maybe.
lag.
Anyway, we record in separate spaces. Anyway, so today we're talking about Chessington Worlds of Adventure. And the thing I was looking forward to the most of this park was definitely Vampire. Because we've talked about Vampire for years. Alex is like one of his favorite coasters. Our friends that we were with Emma and her sister Rosie, which are good friends of ours, and also part of European Coaster Kings. They came to meet us at the park, and so we had a really, really, honestly great time. We had a blast. One of my favorite days of the trip, of course. And I got to go on Vampire a bunch of times because even though the day started off with a bunch of kids, like way too many kids, like school groups, we quickly learned that they would be vacating the scene pretty early on, and they were also forced to do some sort of like school lecture thing, so they were all out of our way, and that was pretty great. And so Alexander has a memory list with him of what we did, and he will be introducing each ride, and then we'll just talk about it a little bit.
So we always like take little pictures and videos as we go through the park, so it's kind of like nice little timestamp for referencing what we did in the order.
Yeah, I usually do everything with the camera, and he does it on his phone, so that way obviously the camera stuff is all, I cannot figure out what we did when, but on his phone it's a little bit more laid out, like what did we do, so it's easier to remember that way.
We pretty much took the park clockwise. we entered and went straight to Vampire, which you basically go, that's pretty much one of the first rides you come to, even though it's a bit of a walk, because on the left side of the park from the entrance is mostly zoo exhibits, animal exhibits. But yeah, this park is always about Vampire. I think it's always been about Vampire for as long as Vampire's been open. Even with like Mandrill Mayhem and stuff, it's still just like, it's all about Vampire. This ride in 1990 ushered in this era of like major themed expansion for Chessington. John Wardley, who would go on to do like Nemesis and Oblivion and like those kinds of projects for Alton Towers. Prior to all of that, he did the Transylvania area for Chessington World of Adventures, which is a nice big expansion there in like the left corner of the park that yielded two major rides, the Mack Rides Water Dark Ride Bubble Works and the Vampire. And I think to this day, Vampire is one of the best examples of an aero suspended coaster ever designed. I feel like it kind of took the concept of the Big Bad Wolf, where you have like the decorative European hamlet that you're flying through, and took it a step further. And instead of the buildings being decorative, it's actually the midway. The buildings are all shops and restaurants and stuff. And the coaster, the second half of the coaster, hovers directly above the midway and weaves and bobs between the buildings and the trees and stuff. Transylvania in Chessington is one of my favorite themed areas of any park in the world, just because of how beautifully it frames that aero suspended coaster. And then just what a nice duo the suspended coaster and the Gruffalo, which is the Bubble Works ride, has been rethemed. This is like its third or fourth theme iteration, but in any case, it's a really nice little dark ride that's very unique. And this great aero suspended coaster with Vekoma suspended trains. Some people prefer the original aero trains. I mean, the aero trains were so cool. How they had like a very realistic vampire bat as the ride vehicle. They were so neat looking. But I think not having a floor really adds a nice component to this ride too, because you spend so much of your ride like hovering over guest midways, and being able to look down and see the people below your feet, I think is a really nice vibe. So I never rode it with the old train, so I can't compare directly. But I think as far as aero suspended coasters go, this one, I think really the layout happened to really lend itself to the floorless cars. Unlike a coaster like maybe Top Gun at Great America or at Kings Island, where like the bucket vehicles, the standard aero vehicles, having that weight for that amplify the swinging experience. I don't feel like that ride would have lent itself as much to the floorless trains as this one does. But yeah.
So on that, I just love the layout of Vampire, because of the way that Vampire is built always reminds me of the original bat at Kings Island, like the original, where there was like some kind of tight turns and some weird profiling that really meant to make the train swing, which was detrimental on the original bat. But on Vampire, clearly that's not a problem. But there's a couple of really clear moments where there's like very sharp, jagged turns. Which creates some really nice swinging, decently mild. I don't say the Vekoma trains swing that crazy much.
Not really, but that's okay.
But there's one moment, which is towards the end of the ride. It's after the second lift where you go through the tunnel. And then at the end of the tunnel, it's just like this upward swing. And oh my God, if you sit in the front row, especially when you're big like us, it is like insanity the way that you just like flip
we like bottomed out
sideways.
Like we went up
like,
and kind of
shouldn't be
hear,
allowed
like,
to
the
clang. Yeah, that was pretty wild. Other than that, the ride is just like in a beautiful setting. It does have a couple of Merlin touches to it, where like you walk up to the castle and it's like a giant green warehouse with like sheet metal on it. Like this is supposed to be a castle.
Some of that is really just because the ride is so confusing. Old. Like that was the standards of like theme immersion just simply weren't there at the time. And then nowadays they wouldn't care. They don't care enough to fix it. But yeah,
pretty much. But the rides queue is nice. It's pretty much a ride in a giant forest. So it's very forested, green, lush. The tracks go all over. It's hard to pinpoint the layout. There's scenery around the midways that display kind of like a little village you go through. The station, the queue, once it goes inside, has some nice themed elements, and of course the station has that animatronic vampire Dracula guy playing the pipe organ with
So
iconic
cool.
music. And the station is, of course, it's nice, like it's cool. But yeah, the experience itself is one of my favorite suspended coasters. It is just it's not super large scale, but it's compact and well themed, and it's terraformed. It's a terrain coaster. All in all, Vampire is like definitely one of the coolest coasters there.
Yeah,
If
I feel
anywhere
like
in the UK,
it's just
but definitely
everything.
there.
That ride is everything. Without that ride, I mean, the Chessington's a really nice park in its own right, but without that ride, I would have very little desire to go there. There's some really nice rides in that park, but Vampire carries a substantial amount of weight in that park. And like, if we were in London or something and we had a day to go to Chessington, but like Vampire was closed or something, I would kind of not be interested. Because it's just like substantially more significant of an attraction to me than like the next most significant attraction in that park, which is probably Mandrill Mayhem. I'm also a big fan of their log flume. We didn't ride it this time. Sean's not a huge water ride guy. I rode it in 2015. I loved it, but I was, I wasn't as desperate to ride it this time around. We had a lot to do. We had plenty of activities already going on that day. So I wasn't so concerned about it. It was just very like, oh, well, maybe next time. But like, yeah, they have a really cute log flume, and they're like Asian, like Mystic Asia or whatever it's called. They kind of have two Asian areas. One that's like tigers and stuff, I guess like South Asia, and then one that's like Eastern Asia. And the Eastern Asia area is the area that's closed now and being redeveloped allegedly into a Minecraft area. They have like a disco coaster. I remember kind of like walking through the log flume area of the park and then coming through the hump of the disco coaster into the Wild Asia area of the park, which is closed now. But yeah, in the meantime, they expanded the park in a plot of land that used to be just like grass. It was like a picnic area, and they had a south entrance to the park. And that area is now occupied by the World of Jumanji area, which for an intellectual property area looks really nice. And it doesn't immediately, like, I've never seen the new Jumanji movies, and it's not an area that feels like it is completely like IP obsessed.
IP reliant. Yeah, it's true. And I will say, besides maybe the vegetation needing some more growth, because it does feel a little, I know it's not as bad as it used to be, but it does feel a little bit of a head scratch.
Yeah.
I know they were kind of going for like a gardeny vibe and with some interactive elements and then some rides peppered throughout, but it just feels to me kind of like sloppy landscaping a little bit. But all things considered, though, it is for like a mini world, which I like the concept of mini worlds that they, especially Chessington is actually pretty decent about it. It's a nice mini world, I think.
Whole package.
Like a
it's
land.
Not just a roller coaster. They've got two different flat rides. The whole area is themed like the game board, the Jumanji game board. It's all very clever. The coaster is kind of like a loop, and it encircles the whole area. The borders are dictated by the layout of the roller coaster, which I think is really fun. It's got a nice focal point in the back. It's like the uphill spiral that the coaster does. Oh no, it's a really nice area. Like, as far as IP areas go, this is about as nice as it gets. It feels a lot more authentic and less like they were just cutting and pasting a lot of branding from this intellectual property into an area. I don't have the same level of faith in the Paw Patrol area that they're building. I expect a lot of cardboard cutout looking 2D characters and lots of really clashing bright colors and stuff that are going to completely bring down the whole vibe. But we'll see. We will see. What do you think of Mandrill Mayhem?
So talking about Mandrill Mayhem, yeah. So Mandrill Mayhem is a shuttle multi-launch B&M wing coaster, family style, with the back row facing backwards. So first thing it does is actually launch out of the station backwards, and it goes down a little drop and up like a half loop. It doesn't really go up that tall. I wouldn't even really call it a half loop, but it does invert technically. Then you go back through the station and you launch again, and then you launch into a turn that turns into like a slow rolling kind of like barrel roll, followed by another turn to another launch. And then that launch turns into a giant upward helix that goes around the Jaguar statue. That's kind of like the focal point of the land. And then you hang sideways for that whole element and do it all in reverse, right? And then You enter the station. I don't believe you go back through that half loop thing anymore. You just enter the station and slow down. So that's the layout. And like Alex said, it kind of goes around the whole land. It's aesthetically very pleasing. I think it's a very cool way of applying a family B&M wind coaster to a land. Like it's really, I will say integration wise, it's quite nice. It runs like trash in my opinion. I don't think it runs well at all. Thorpe Park has a big B&M wind coaster Swarm down the road.
Yeah, literally down the street.
And that runs much better. That is very smooth, barely any sort of bouncing. And then Mandrill Mayhem has a lot of shuddering, a lot of bouncing, a lot of vibrating, especially, of course, in the wing seats, the outside seats is always the case. But layout-wise, I do enjoy it. Decent amount of force for what's really marketed as like a family coaster. Of course, having the option to ride backwards, and every ride is a backwards ride, but having the option to also pick a row where like you start off backwards and then end up going forwards, that sort of thing. Very neat. Fun.
We rode it a couple times to get the full experience.
Yeah, for a park like that, I think it's just the perfect size. Like it just feels like just as important of a ride as Vampire does. It feels like just as important of a ride as Dragon's Fury. This Dragon's Fury. So like I feel like every e-ticket coaster here practically has like the same kind of scope and feel and importance to it. And it's nice that this wind coaster doesn't feel out of place. Because when you think, wind coaster at a park like Chessington, you're going to think it's going to feel out of place. But surprisingly, it doesn't feel out of place. And since it doesn't do a whole lot, it isn't super fast, isn't super intense, the vibrating and the bouncing is more annoying than it is distracting or painful.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Rapterra.
Maybe it's more distracting than anything else, I guess. It's not as bad as Rapterra. But overall, I do enjoy the ride, and I like the theming of it, and I like the way it fits in. It feels very different than anything else wind coaster related. It's
very
just not
unique
like
in the
Swarm down the street. Swarm is still a better ride.
Yeah, Swarm is definitely better.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice for a family coaster. It's very nice, and the integration is very nice. Like I said, I think it's just the right size and just the right situation overall for that park. Yeah,
2024 was the year of the B&M family coaster because the SeaWorld, Busch Gardens parks we got Phoenix Rising, we got Penguin Trek, we got. And then the Merlin parks did their 2 family wing coasters. They did Chessington and then, of course, Maximus at Legoland. Legoland Deutschland, right? The German one. So 2 miniature B&M wing coasters for kiddie parks, essentially, for family parks. The Legoland one was especially surprising. I mean, Legoland parks really do not dabble in thrill rides much. So when they announced this little wing coaster with 2 barrel rolls, it was like a big surprise. Like I'm impressed with whoever at B&M was able to convince Merlin to do a double inverting B&M wing coaster for a Legoland park. But I hope it's a successful endeavor for them and that maybe they'll build more because it's a cool looking ride. And then like Mandrill Mayhem, like you said, I think is a great fit for Chessington, for a park that has finally decided to re-enter the semi-thrill market. They haven't had a looping ride since the removal of their Huss Topspin, Ramsey's Revenge, because they used to have that, and they had Samurai, and those were like the major thrill rides in that park. And now with them both gone, there was no guarantee that they would ever do another inverting ride, let alone an inverting ride with 4 launches that goes backwards and like does all this stuff, like forwards and backwards launches, and like a spike where you're hanging a 90-degree angle. Like it's a cool ride. It's a neat ride. I wish it ran better, but at least, like you said, it doesn't feel like quite as much of a fail as like Rapterra does, where like the ride is just completely unenjoyable as a result of how it runs. At least like Mandrill Mayhem is still like salvageable. It's not like a complete distraction from the experience.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good way of looking at it.
And then from this point, did you want to say anything else about Jumanji? Any more Jumanji thoughts?
Not really.
From here,
no.
We did the little safari ride, which I wanted to do because it's kind of neat that they have like a little poor man's Kilimanjaro safari.
Wait, did we not do that Pharaoh dark ride first?
I can't remember. Oh yeah, we did Toon Blast, but I can't remember which one we did first. I may not have any pictures of Toon Blast because we go from my camera roll. We go straight from the coaster to
we walked past and we rode it, and then we went to the
Toon Blast is cool.
Safari.
That is a really cool
ride. Toon Blast is very cool. It's actually pretty neat, and it feels decently well maintained. And I think technology, while not flashy, is just right because it's a lot of physical sets. So the ride, so first of all, it's an interactive dark ride. Let
and
me
it's
just preface
basically
that.
a roller coaster.
And you sit on these really,
it's
in these really big vehicles that move along.
System.
Yeah, it looks like roller coaster track, kind of like the way roller coaster track is used for Figment here in
absolutely.
Epcot. Anyway, so as you move around the track, the sets are quite large, and there's probably like a good couple dozen people on these ride vehicles at once,
like
and they all have your guns ready. You shoot.
It moves from scene. It's really cool ride.
And so there's all these targets, of course, all over the scenes that you shoot, and there's some sort of story behind it. And to be honest with you, I can't remember the story, but I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it's rudimentary and more of a basic one, but everything was functioning, and it was long. It was really thematically long. Quite strong. Yeah, I actually really liked it. It was definitely a highlight of the day for me.
I don't think I even rode it in 2015. I have no memory of this ride. I think I just thought it was like a Sally dark ride, like just I just had no idea. But this ride's legendary. It opened in the 80s as like a space themed ride, supplied by Mack Rides. I just pulled up the Wikipedia page because I was like, who built this? It's a Mack Rides dark ride.
Interesting.
It was called the Fifth Dimension. It ran from 87 to 93.
The quatrième dimension.
And in 1994, it became Terror Tomb. And then in 2002, it became Tomb Blaster, where the laser guns were introduced to the ride. And then it was refurbished in 2016, and then refurbished again in 2020. So this ride has had like 5 different eras, 3 of which are different names. But it's been running. The version that we got was most recently revamped in 2020, and it's a pretty neat ride. I definitely think that the Figment ride at Epcot is exactly how I would describe the ride system, where like you have a train of multiple vehicles that spin and position you at different scenes. Where it's kind of a stop go kind of sequence that employs a roller coaster track to achieve this, to accomplish this. But yeah, it's really neat. I haven't ridden anything quite like it since or prior.
That's funny because you can sense it's really like one of the original e-tickets, because even the queue for it that they've built, like the space is massive and thematic and has like those bridges that go between the buildings.
It's definitely the biggest ride they had built at the time. This was before Vampire.
Yeah. I still think it's one of the biggest e-tickets there. If you look at like big rides, you've got Zufari, not Zeropa, sorry. Zufari, Tomb Blaster, of course, the big roller coasters.
And like the log flume.
Maybe Gruffalo, but it's not even that big. The log flume. So it's definitely like one of the big e-tickets.
Emma and Rosie
there.
were talking about it like it was like a cornerstone of the entire Chessington experience. And here I was like oblivious to that, thinking like, oh, I thought it was just a basic little... But it was a nice surprise. It was a nice treat to ride it and I was so impressed with like the scope of it. It was a nice scope.
And then we actually went to the Zufari. Yeah. So I guess that's actually a pretty new attraction, which for me, I thought, oh, it's a Safari ride. It must have had it for a long time. But it's actually a pretty recent attraction.
Yeah, when I rode it, it was brand new, I think, in 2015. And it's cute. It's shorter than I remember. Like maybe I'm just used to Animal Kingdom, but like I feel like I remember it being longer in 2015. There's like 3 or 4 segments of the ride, and then it's over. But it's cute. It's cool. It's cool. You know, it's different. Like that's a different kind of ride. I don't think there's a lot of rides like that in the world. So it's cool that Chessington has one. And Chessington being primarily a park and zoo, like zoo animals have always been part of their branding, and it continues to be a huge component of the experience there. That it's cool that they have a ride that reflects that as well.
But the one thing I didn't love so much about it is they had that scene at the end, and that's
terrible.
That's supposed to be in the caves, and it's like so it's in a big like show building, I guess, like a warehouse.
What was
that? But
there's
doors on 2 sides, so there's the light pollution in there is absolutely terrible, and it's supposed to be like, wow, this like caves you've never discovered before, but like it's so obvious driving into like a big building, and then once you're in there, there's all this projection mapping supposed to happen, but the light pollution there is so awful, and like the sheet metal walls and ceilings are so present. I'm like, oh my god, I just kind of wish they had done nothing instead of doing this, because it just looks so cheap and it looks so bad. But the actual animal aspect of it, that kind of stuff is always really fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it's just, even though it's not a perfect ride, it's far from perfect. It is still kind of cool. It's a cool ride. But yeah, then after that, I think from this point on, we made sure we had our credits. There's 2 more coasters operating in the park right now. There's a third, a Mackblauer Ensign, which is part of the Mexican area of the park. But that neighborhood, that section of the Mexico area has been repurposed, is currently being repurposed into a Paw Patrol mini land. And I think the Blauer Ensign is gone. There's a concept that shows like the Zamperla family gravity coaster, but I don't know if it's just for the sake of the artwork or if they're actually repurposing the Blauer Ensign. They had a fire that like damaged that ride, and because it had been rethemed in 2012, I think, or something, as the Scorpion. And it was a really cool like reskin of the ride it was like a Southwestern like steampunk sort of vibe, and it had fire effects, and the ride caught on fire at one point. And then it never reopened. And it sat closed for a while. Typical. And then COVID happened. Yeah, Mack roller coaster catching on fire. What are the odds? But yeah, so it was closed for a while. And then now they are repurposing it. I think when we rode the Wild Mouse there, the Rattlesnake Wild Mouse, which is an excellent mouse, I think we tried to look over the fence, and I'm pretty sure the plot where our ensign was is empty.
I thought they cleared it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unless I'm like
not
able
so I
to
think
see
it's
it,
going to be
unless
either
I'm
new coaster or
misremembering, I think it's gone.
reinstall.
So
yeah, so I guess while we're here, let's talk about the mine train, because them little Mexicali area, is that what it's called? I forgot what it's called. There's Rattlesnake, and that is a Mauer.
I think it's a Mauer.
I believe it's a Mauer.
That was a new credit for me because it was closed on my visit, and it's really good.
I love Wild Mouse coasters like this because not only, I mean, Wild Mouse coasters, that's not anything special, but this one is really well themed, and it has like a really nice queue, and you got those little buildings and huts, and that the classic Wild Western theme.
Beautiful
I don't know what it is, but I just love it. Like I've always loved it, and so anything that's themed like this always gets me kind of excited. I just love, like, even a roller coaster like in 3, I always built all my stuff themed to the Wild West. I don't know why. I just really kind of like that aesthetic. And especially when it's well done, lots of theming, nice color palette. I think it ran well. Overall, I really thought it was actually kind of like
that it's a single
really
lap
nice
bar
ride.
and there's no seat divider. So like,
as you can sit in the middle.
You just camp out right in the center, spread eagle. It's like the most comfortable ride I've ever had on a standard mouse ever.
Yeah, that must be a Mauer because we did that Marble Mania, which set the same trains. And that's
I just
Mauer,
looked it up.
so.
It's Mauer.
So anyway, actually kind of another one of those e-ticket highlights where I also feel like everything in the park, again, has a similar importance, and this just fits in that as well. I will say this is, now I think about it, Chestnut really is one of those parks that, strangely, everything has a similar importance. You have a similar importance for like every single major attraction, and nothing feels like it's outperforming or outweighing something else. It's actually a strangely balanced situation there.
It's a park that...
And this because it's so well themed and it's clearly like a traditional family coaster. It does feel like that area's, important roller coaster. It doesn't feel like it's overshadowed by the other coasters, in my opinion, even though on paper it would be.
Yeah, I think it's like a great choice. Like every time they do something, Chessington has always been very careful with their rides that they build. They don't do things very hastily. I think it's like they have a budget. They have to be particular about their choices, especially in the Merlin era of Thorpe. Because Merlin's has been in charge of this park since the Tussauds era. It's been in their arsenal for longer than a lot of their parks. I think they've even had Chessington longer than they've had Alton Towers. But I think things like once they had Thorpe Park, it was like they had to make a lot more careful decisions about how they were going to grow the park. Like in 1998 was when they built Rattlesnake. It was also the same year, I believe, that Thorpe Park built Tidal Wave. That was when that was when they acquired, and that was when they were finally starting to be like, okay, it's time to split these parks. Now that we have both of them, they're not really competing with each other anymore. We need to make sure that we're making very particular choices for these parks to differentiate each other. Because like at one point, they both had that exact same Mackblauer Ensign. Chessington had the mine train themed one, and then the flying fish at Thorpe, which was in storage for a while. I think they were like They're kind of like, wow, like we have this with two parks, they're right next to each other. Neither of them have very many coasters, but they both have the same coaster. They have this little figure eight mine train. So they kind of just, I think Rattlesnake was the first like big Merlin addition to that park after acquiring Thorpe. And they've continued in that trend of being like, okay, like, well, we're going to do another coaster. Then they did like Alton Towers got the spinning Mauer mouse for the little spinball whizzer. And then they were like, okay, let's do another one, but we're going to do this. This is going to be like the Chessington coaster. And they're like, for Thorpe, we'll do something different. Like in 2004, I guess they didn't really do a coaster in 2004. They had done Colossus and Nemesis Inferno prior to that, but also like alternating years, like alternating which year which park was gonna get like the big expenditure that year, and then it would switch to so on and so forth. Although they didn't do that. Hyperia was this year, right? Or was it last year? Is it 2024?
Oh my God. Maybe it's 24. I don't even remember.
Because I was going to say 2024 was a big year for both of these parks if they both opened those coasters at the same time. Yeah, it's 2024.
Yeah, it's 2024.
So that was 2024 marks a unique period where they actually built major expenditures for both of these parks at the same time. And both major thrill rides, actually, which is interesting. But yeah, I love a Rattlesnake. I love that. That is like peak Tussauds era. Like this was before the Merlin era came in, and it was also like that was the same year that we got Oblivion, like 1998. All the parks got like major rides in the Tussauds arsenal, or relatively major rides, all with like great little theme packages. But yeah, so Rattlesnake and the Mackbauer Ensign and Vampire carried the Chessington operation until 2004, when they built a very impressive Mauer spinning coaster, Dragon's Fury.
Honestly, one of their best spinning coasters, and I think Mauer spinning coasters in general are quite good. All over the spectrum, they're good. I mean, you think about Phantasialand's Winches, Fear and Force.
Tarantula at Park and Attractions.
Tarantula is amazing. I just don't think, I generally speaking, just always seem to like it. And then I almost feel as if Dragon's Fury is on Tarantula's level. Like Dragon's Fury is so good.
That was amazing.
Dragons,
have to keep that.
I didn't even say the word,
said
by
it.
the
you
way.
Were really close.
It just sounded like it. It just sounded like it. I always said it. Anyway, that wasn't even on purpose. Dragon's Fury. I just slur my words a lot. Dragon's Fury has that Tarantula feel to it. Like, it's quite big. It's quite long. It does a lot of stuff, and it spins out of control. And we shrieked and screamed and almost puked.
Yeah, I don't even remember my ride.
Somehow, it is wilder than the B&M.
It is spun crazier than any
in the park.
I have never spun like that on a ride in my life. I literally couldn't tell you what the ride did. It was so crazy. We rode it again, and we spun a little bit less the second time, and so I was able to actually like recall the events of the ride. It's such a neat ride. It's bigger than it seems, because it already has like a nice big scale to it. Oh, Bill has joined the podcast. Our black cat.
Our little cat's in the
chunky
podcast.
Black cat, Bill.
Well, he doesn't really squeak, or else I couldn't make him say meow.
He's not a huge talker. But yeah, I had forgotten. This was also closed on my first visit. My first visit to Chessington, the only coasters open were Vampire and the Blower Ensign, because after the Smileware incident, all of the like individual vehicle coasters were like down and testing and stuff, or like, I don't know. But yeah, so both of the Malware coasters at Chessington were closed on my first visit. So this is my first time riding on this coaster, and like it has a fabulous layout. It has a lift hill. It has a second lift hill. It is a long coaster that
it's weird little ride, but so awesome. So first of all, when we rode for the first time, we couldn't believe how intense it was. But that's because we were sitting on one side on purpose, and they didn't feel the backside, because something with it veiling in wind and not running well in the rain and whatnot, they could only allow for 3 adults per vehicle, or like 2 adults and 2 kids. It was like some weird formula, and there's signs for it everywhere. So we ended up just riding Alex and I on my own, and then Rosie and Emma rode on their own. And so, but Alex and I are both big boys, and riding on the same side of a Mauer spinner does exactly what you expect it to do. It spins out of control. But we just happened to have a loose car that hit the all the right spots at the right times, and we spun out of control. I mean, like, I cannot overstate how out of control we were. We were repeatedly rotating without being able to even focus on a single thing. It was just like out of control spinning for the entire ride.
I couldn't tell you if I was up or down. Like, I was trying so hard to like focus on the ride's layout because it was my first time riding. It's yours too. I'm like, I want to know what this ride's layout is. I don't think I've ridden a coaster where I was physically incapable of discerning what the layout was doing because of how fast I was spinning. It was like nothing I've ever experienced. We split up the second time. We each took one of the girls and we spun quite a bit, but not as bad. It was definitely you and me together on one side. That was the X factor there. I love looking at this coaster like from satellite to see its funky little layout. You could tell that like they definitely squeezed this right in where there was space, and that's why there's a lift hill in the middle of it, because it's like you do what you can, and then because these little individual cars are going to run out of gas before you can get it back to the station, it's like, oh, just pop a lift hill in there. It's got a few more turns, a couple more drops, and then back to the station. It's just really fun. Really fun, unexpected ride. It does a lot.
Yeah, actually, yeah, definitely a highlight. I mean, the line gets long, the capacity isn't great, but
totally worth the trouble.
I think it's really one of the best spinning coasters in the
riding,
world.
Like
and the way that's integrated again.
Windsors, and it's like I just never thought I would ride another Mauer spinner that was going to impress me as much, and it's one totally
be on that level. Yeah, it's definitely on that level. Yeah, definitely a highlight of the park for me, for sure. In fact, maybe even my second favorite coaster there behind Vampire.
Definitely my second favorite behind Vampire. It doesn't have a lot of competition. I mean, Mandrill Mayhem is cool. It should run better than it does. The mouse is beautiful, but it's all at the end of the day, it's just a really nice mouse. Dragon's Fury and Vampire together, I think, are two of the best coasters in Great Britain, to be honest with you. They're just so well done. They're such neat rides, and the layouts, they're peak terrain coasters. With their two lift hills and stuff. So yeah, definitely highlights for the Great Britain roller coaster landscape, and definitely like the star attractions of Chessington as far as I'm concerned. And then from that point,
so what else did we do? We did Gruffalo.
The Gruffalo is really cute. It's a circular raft ride. It can seat like 4 adults. Really nice dark ride. It has a drop in the middle of it, and I thought we were going to get wet. It seemed like we were going to take on water because our boat was so heavy, but we survived. I'd never heard of the Gruffalo. It's
I expected
like
to get wet.
Storybook, and it was super, super cute. Like I said, a really nice compliment to Vampire in that area of the park. What else did we ride?
We did that manor walkthrough about that.
Oh yeah,
book
the little
about the
storybook of like Room on a Broom.
That witch.
That was cute.
Yeah,
I love walkthroughs. We're big fans of that kind of stuff, kind of oddball things. What else did we do? I lost my place on like our little.
We did the little sea life aquarium.
Oh yeah, I do love the sea lives.
Like it's in a tent, which is wild. But it looks they're gonna replace it. Is that what it is? I forgot what it was. But it felt like I don't know. Maybe I just misremember.
It's been there for
I
a
thought
long
that maybe
time.
It was on its
that
way
was
out.
Something that Merlin did pretty quick once they started doing that brand, the Sea Life brand. I think it's a nice component for parks like Alton Towers has one. It was pretty similar to the Alton Towers one. Both are really cute little activities. But yeah, that was pretty much it. We did this was one of the shorter days on our trip. I mean, by this point in our trip, we were getting very tired. So like,
yeah, was it our one to last?
It was one of the last parts. We actually did Thorpe the next day, and then we did Legoland for a half day after Thorpe. But like,
I guess we could throw Legoland
the
in
road
there
trip
if you wanted to.
Portion of our trip
care.
was finally over. But yeah, let's talk about Legoland a little bit, because that's not really going to take up too much time either. And not a whole lot else to say about Chessington other than like we rode Vampire a bunch more times because that ride is just so good.
That's what you come for. It's Vampire Land.
But yeah, let's talk about Legoland, because Legoland has some really neat rides. We did ride Legoland's log flume, and I was going to ride by myself, and Sean got forced into riding because you can't. There's no single riders allowed.
Miserable.
And it was super fucking wet, and it was so much fun. And we got this great.
I bought a poncho
Sean
and
had
it still
this
got
yellow
so
poncho.
soaked.
The
Oh my
pictures
God.
are the best. Like Sean looks amazing, in his yellow poncho.
Amazingly miserable.
For the flume.
I will say this park, because it was previously, first of all, it's kind of on an estate. And then this is also an acquired park, because it used to be the Windsor Zoo and Wildlife, whatever. And they actually even had an orca way back in the day. Anyway, so the park itself has really good bones, I will say that. And a lot of Legoland parks actually have pretty decent bones, because a lot of times they're acquired parks that have been converted. But it's a nice park. It's on the side of a hill. You have a great view of Windsor Castle. You have a great view of Heathrow for the plane nerds.
Great funicular that takes you. And that was original. That was the only attraction left over from before the Legoland days.
And everything there has room to breathe. And there are some major attractions, like unfortunately the Rabbit Ride's closed, but then they have Ninjago, pretty big dark ride. They have the Dragons and Dragons Apprentice. They have the log flume we did. Of course, there's that new Raceway coaster. There's the Dupla coaster. There's another like storybook kind of dark ride. There's a flying. There's
we did a lot of stuff there. We did. They have
there's the Madhouse.
That's fairly new. That was so cute.
The giant aquarium ride. I mean, honestly, this park is pretty impressive. Like, talk about London area family parks, I guess, because this too is a really impressive theme park. So I guess let's run through it real quick. I'll have you lead.
So we did this park just kind of like how we did Chessington. We clockwise, starting from the entrance. Our top priority was getting on the new Lego race coasters, the dueling. What is it, like Lego race route? Gotta look up the names for this stuff, because it's like everything. It all just starts to run together.
Sorry, guys.
Minifigure Speedway.
It's the Minifigure Speedway, and you have the Legends shuttle coaster. And what's the theme again?
Legends and All Stars.
Legends and All Stars. I like what their characters are freaking hilarious. The Lego characters. What's one of them, like girl holding corn or something?
Like
I can't
guy
remember.
with the
there's the
banana
funniest
guy.
characters.
They had the funniest. It was so
guy with the banana head or whatever.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty cute.
The funniest names. But the ride itself is a dueling Zero family coaster on the side of a hill.
They're building a clone of it at Legoland
that can only run a certain capacity based on the weather. And the weather was not great when we were there. Operations were pretty miserable, but the ride itself was pretty fun. We had, of course, ride both sides, and we had to kind of ask to ride the other side because they assign you a side. But also, it's actually a really fun ride. Doesn't do a whole lot, but it's scenic because it's on a hill, and perfect for a park like that. Family coaster, I guess.
Yeah, it was a cute ride, and it was surprising. The backwards portion was actually like surprisingly forceful. If you sit in the back, you can take those turns in reverse. It was a nice ride. The operations at this park are not the best, and like it felt like kind of a grueling, like the first few things that we did, getting both sides of the minifigure speedway and then riding the little Duplo kiddie coaster that's near it. I mean, it was a huge pain in the ass. It felt like that part of our day felt like it took forever. The Duplo coaster is tiny, and it can hold like 10 people per dispatch, and it was like a 30-minute wait, and it's like, God, the shit that we do to get like a credit. But yeah, after like over an hour, we finally had the 3 new credits that had been built since my visit. And then from there, like we did the little fairy tale boat ride. That might have actually been left over from the original park too. I can't remember. It seems like an older ride system than like the 90s. And that was when Legoland Windsor opened, was in the 90s. So if you go to Legoland Windsor and you ride something that doesn't feel like it was built in the 90s or later than that, then it might not have been. It may have been left over from the Windsor Safari Park. But that's a great ride. They have a lot of fun tracked rides here because the old mill is cute. Obviously, they've got the great little collection of family coasters. And then the submarine ride, the Sea Life Lego submarine ride is honestly, I think, one of the most underrated rides anywhere. Because it takes the like Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea submarine ride concept and takes it a step further by putting you in an actual aquarium with real live fish, which I'm not a fish expert. I'd like to think that the welfare of the fish are being taken into consideration. I don't know if
I thought it was a really neat
It's
ride.
so cool. I hope that the fish are
It
not
looks
stressed.
fine to me. It looks like a pretty decent sized aquarium, and the whole thing is one giant. Even the loading station stuff. So you just board into the.
It's just so cool. Like, I can't believe how
I think
cool
it's
it is.
fine. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
When I was here,
I mean, there's a couple of them, right? Doesn't the San Diego has one now too?
When I was there in 2015, we split. It was Chessington and Legoland on the same day. So, like, we didn't really have time to do much at Legoland. I did the log flume, the dragon coaster. The main dragon coaster was closed because it valleyed. So the only coaster there at the time was the kiddie dragon coaster. And then I did the log flume and that submarine ride, and that was it. That was all I rode. And the funicular back to the top. But I had heard the submarine ride was relatively new, and I'd heard that it was like, it's a submarine. It's like at Disneyland, but it's a real aquarium. I'm like, no freaking way. Like, there's no way that there's real fish in there. We rode it. It's so cool.
No, it feels like a pretty high quality ride, so that was good. I really enjoyed that.
And then the Madhouse, which I looked it up, that was fairly new too. That opened in like 2019, and I love a good Madhouse.
You know what? I was kind of skeptical about like a Madhouse for like a Legoland park, but you know what? They've seen it pretty well going to like the Monster Party, whatever. Decently creepy for kids, but so Lego. And then the actual show scene with like the vampire DJ. The tables.
It's literally one of the better Madhouses, I feel.
Yeah, it really is one of the better Madhouses. One of the nicer quality ones. I thought it was a great fit. I will say, just like most Legoland parks, maybe Merlin parks in general, I just like a little bit rough around the edges for like the queue. Just felt like really
and like from the outside
and boring,
it's like a building
and like metally.
That's how we knew it was a Madhouse, because like, we could see the steel building from the outside.
Because you can tell a Madhouse from a mile away if you see the shape of the building. So that just kind of has that feel all over the park. I just feel like the quality isn't quite there, but this ride was quite nice. Yeah. And again, the bones of the park are good. Like the size of the park it's quite big. And so next we went to the log flume area, and we passed by Ninjago, and then we did the log flume.
We also did the mini
lands,
which
itself is very nice.
Central to the park, and that's
we did go
a
to
really
nice
mini lands are always kind of like the nucleus of any Legoland park, and this one was very nice because they have so much cloud cover all year. The models look really nice. They're not sun bleached like the ones in Florida. Because it's in Europe, there's a larger emphasis on European areas. This mini-land had a huge Netherlands. It had a huge Amsterdam. I couldn't believe how big the Dutch area was for this Legoland. I thought it was so cool. But yeah, if you've seen
it's quite
you've
big.
seen mini lands before, you kind of get the idea of what you can expect. But I love going to each one because they're all slightly different.
This is definitely a nice mini land. Yeah. And then we so back to Log Flume real quick. Log Flume itself, I will say, very, very nice. Scenic, full of vegetation. You go by that big pool of water. A decent drop. Like, it is a major sized log flume. It is surprisingly big and polished and nice for a Legoland ride, I feel. But I feel like that about a lot of Legoland rides all the time. So maybe that's just how Legoland is.
Actually, I think Legoland rides are just better.
Maybe it's just like basic theming for on some major attractions. So I can appreciate that part. But all the over the top water spraying methods to get you absolutely soaked there's no place for that in the UK. This isn't Orlando. We're not in California, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, South China, Taiwan. I don't care. Like, there's plenty of places in the world where like making me absolutely drenched based on the climate is acceptable. But sorry, London is not one of them. London is like gray, cold, terrible weather. And when I visited, the weather was like rainy and gray, and it wasn't great. So it's like, I don't know why a park like Legoland, like if the water ride itself got you wet because you went down the chute and oops, there was water, like I get it. But this ride is the only reason you go wet is because they're continuously spraying water directly in your face. And I find that kind of tactics just annoying.
I think that's why they cut the rapids ride there.
That's because I'm not a big water ride person maybe, but I find that kind of stuff just like annoying. Like, why am I being sprayed in my face? I think
water rides have their place in any market, but in Great Britain, you've got the 3 Merlin parks right next to each other. I feel like Chessington and Legoland both having nice log flumes is part of the reason why Thorpe cut their log flume. And then Thorpe having their rapids ride, I feel like is part of the reason why they decided to call it quits on the rapids ride at Legoland. Plus, it's a huge space. I think they're going to do something really cool in the space vacated by the rapids ride. But yeah, it's like you got a log flume that gets you that freaking wet. That's all you need. You don't need 2 water rides that do that level of wetness. But yeah, I love that. It's one of my favorite flumes anywhere because it's not just a pirate-themed log flume, but it's a Lego pirate-themed log flume. Everything's made out of Legos. There's like an indoor portion when you're inside a pirate ship, and then you drop out of the pirate ship into this big splashdown. It's a cool ride. I love that ride. And then past that, we continued into the Camelot area and got the last 2 credits. The Kitty Dragon Coaster and then the Big Dragon Coaster. The Dragon, both of these coasters are actually built by a relatively little-known manufacturer called WGH Transportation. They only ever built 6 roller coasters. All of them are still open. But you can ride their coasters. They have 2 coasters at Fantasy Island. Their powered coaster, the Rhombus Rocket, and the Jellikins Tiny Kitty Coaster. The 2 dragon coasters at Legoland. Spook Express at Joyland in Great Yarmouth. Their tiny little family coaster. And then the Green Dragon at Greenwood Forest Park in Wales. Those are the 6 coasters built by this WHG Transportation. So it's funny because the coasters kind of resemble, they have a Zamperla Zero kind of vibe to them, but they're not. They're just slightly different. And I think that's mostly apparent in the Big Dragon Coaster because it has such a funny layout. The dark ride portion is pretty similar to what you would find from the other dark ride portions of the Dragon coasters at other Legoland parks. The Dragon coaster is like kind of the Space Mountain of Legoland. Every park kind of has one, and it's like the focal point coaster experience. But then once you get outside, the layout for the Dragon coaster at Legoland Windsor is totally bizarre. It has multiple lift hills and lots of drops, and it's like the shape of it just is so. I feel like there's no rhyme or reason to it, except for that there's a lot of maintenance roads under the ride. So I feel like there's a lot of like navigating around the infrastructure of the backstage area of the park. Like it's got multiple lift hills, they're tire-driven lift hills, and one's like an S shape, and it's just really, it's a cool ride, but it's like super odd the way that it's shaped. It's very memorable for how unconventional the layout is of that ride. But that pretty much wrapped up our day at Legoland too, because then from there
I do appreciate how weird that one feels because my experience, of course, has been like 0 dragon coasters and having the Vekoma one
here
here
in Florida.
In Florida. So they obviously feel a lot more, I guess, solid and more traditional and stuff that we've ridden all over the place. But this one felt very, very different because of its super weird layout and by the super strange manufacturer. Nothing about it was straight, you know? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing about it seemed to make any sort of sense.
It's so funny. Even just looking at it from satellite, it's like it's just such a choice. It's just a funny ride.
Yeah,
but really
choice.
Fun. Really fun. We rode it twice. We caught it right when it opened for the day.
I'm just sad to see. I'm sad to see the rapid ride sitting closed because it's like a big rapid ride too, and it's built inside the hill. So I'm hoping to do something with that, maybe like a refurb on it. I don't know what their plans are, but that's the only thing.
I heard that it's like permanently
done.
Yeah, it takes up valuable space. It definitely. I remember it in 2015. I remember seeing it operating, but I didn't ride it. It doesn't look quite as scenic now because of the Ninjago Dark Ride building that is like right in the middle of it. I don't know if it's quite as enriching of an experience now that like so much of it is like hugging a giant steel building, you know, in the tradition of Merlin, of course. But I guess we'll see. I'm very curious where what they'll do with that space. It would be neat if they gave the Rapids ride like a reskin, retheme, remodel, but I could also see them
Raptors are cool.
Going in a totally different direction.
Sounds so awesome.
They've already got the great log flume. I feel like maybe it's just not super necessary. Another ride that they have there that we didn't ride, but we considered riding, we just didn't have enough time, is they have that Flight at the Sky Lion flying theater attraction.
Oh yeah, their flying theater,
which by all accounts is...
God, they have actually a pretty nice lineup of rides.
It's a huge park. They've got a ton of rides.
It's very big. And the infrastructure is massive. Like when you arrive, it just kind of feels like kind of in some weird random town. Obviously, it's like, you know, a suburb of London. But when you then turn up to go to the park, and you pass by the hotel, which is actually the backside of the park, and then you take the roads all the way around.
Oh,
and
the hotel setup is really beautiful for this park too, on that lake. Part of like a midway loop that has the hotel right on it and reconnects back to the park. Super nice.
It's a pretty substantial park. And setup. It's funny because, of course, the whole London Metro is just like completely dominated by Merlin Entertainments, but somehow all three parks just managed to feel so different. I guess really it's kiddie, family,
thrill,
and adults, and somehow all three coexist so beautifully. So that's
I almost
cool.
think of it as like a 3-gate resort.
I like
you
visit.
could take these 3 parks and put them in like a Disney World setting, and it would work. It's just that they're not actually connected to each other with like like co-developed transportation or anything. But yeah, I think Legoland Windsor is a cool park. They've got some cool rides. I'm very curious to see what their next move is when they're with redeveloping the Rapids ride and whatnot. It's nice that they've got a couple of coasters now, which they really sorely needed. They had the Mack Mouse large park model opened at this park and closed like 5 years later, and they sent it to the Legoland in Florida, I believe, or one of them. They sent it.
Oh, is that so?
They sent it to one of the. Theirs was just called Jungle Coaster. Ran from 2004 to 2009, and it went to Lego. So we've ridden in Florida. So we've ridden the one that was at Windsor. It's funny. I'm looking at Roller Coaster Database. I don't know what the deal was, but like the vehicles had these like roll cage looking like roof cage. I don't know what the deal was with that, but that seems very cumbersome. Maybe there was an incident on this one. Besides, I don't know why it only ran for 5 years when it was like the biggest ride in the park. And then they just ended up sending it to a different Legoland. So for a long time, this park was very underdeveloped in the roller coaster department. And now that they've got 2 kiddie coasters and 2 like full-size coaster attractions, it's like I feel like they have a much more well-rounded lineup ever since the Speedway.
What's nice is that there's so many attractions around that aren't roller coasters, having like the little boat rides, having
I feel like they're all the better for it.
The car rides, the aquarium dark ride, the
Madhouse,
the interactive dark
fairy
ride.
tale flume ride.
There's so much to do at this park. So I'll consider it actually.
They
also
have a shooting dark ride, Laser
neat.
Raiders, which we didn't have time for. We didn't ride it this time.
Oh, that's right. That's the traditional. Yeah, that's the traditional one that most parks have, the Pharaoh themed one. So I'll consider the park lineup is pretty good, and we had a pretty okay time. It was actually a lot busier than I expected it to be, but all things considered, we had a pretty okay experience. I think we spent like half a day here, and then there was a big storm rolling in, so we dipped quick and we just outran the rain. I think we got in the car.
Yeah, we bounced and it was starting to rain as we took off.
We did pretty good on that.
Remember, we got free parking because the staff member who's helping us like figure out the parking, she was like getting rained on. She was like, "You guys are fine, just go."
Yeah. So all things considered, I think this is now officially the Great British Road Trip episode with both Chessington World of Adventure and Legoland Windsor.
I think we talked about doing both of them in the same episode, and then we forgot, and then as we were recording this, we're like, oh, we were already like done with Chessington. 40 minutes left. So let's talk about Legoland. Still kept it under an hour.
So there's only one episode left to do, and that's going to be a bunch of seaside parks, including a Fantasy Island. But so far we've done a whole series of Great British Road Trip with Alton Towers, Thorpe Park. We've done Paulton's Park,
Drayton
Manor in one. We've
Blackpool
done
Pleasure Beach,
Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Flamingo Land. So we actually are coming towards the end of this massive road trip that has a bunch of installments. So make sure to listen to all those episodes. Surprisingly, our Thorpe Park opinions and Alton Towers opinions have been very entertaining to people. Those are some of the best episodes ever. So definitely make sure to check those out. And if you want to listen to US content, the usual, make sure to listen to that. And that will be it for this episode. Give us 5 stars wherever you're listening. Listen to our last week's episode that is about the coaster decades, like all sorts of trends in coasters
in the history.
Kind of a nerdy episode, but it's one of the few episodes that isn't really this season isn't too park focused. And with that, we'll catch you guys next week. on, we don't even know what topic yet. So let's be surprised. Catch you guys next week. Bye.